Since I first began hosting It's a Miracle, we've presented over 300 stories on this show, and to pick a favorite is no easy task. However, there is one story that stands out for me, and I think it's especially timely today, as it takes a hard look at bigotry and religious persecution, and it provides an important lesson for us all. In June of 1991, Michael and Julie Weiser moved into a new home in Lincoln, Nebraska. Michael was the cantor at the local Jewish synagogue, his wife a part-time nurse. Together, they looked forward to living in a new neighborhood among new families and friends. A few days after their arrival, they received a disturbing message.
And the voice on the other end of the phone said, "You'll be sorry you ever moved into this neighborhood."
The anonymous caller made ugly, abusive references to the Weisers' Jewish background.
I knew something was wrong because he looked like someone had slapped him in the face. I was extremely upset and concerned because we had just purchased this home, and I thought maybe there was someone in the neighborhood who didn't want us to be living in the neighborhood because we were Jewish.
A few days later, the Weisers received a thick manila envelope in the mail with no return address.
And when I opened it, it was filled with all of this hate literature. And on the top, there was a calling card that said, "The KKK is watching you, scum." It was unbelievable. Michael and I were just appalled and really very afraid.
The thing that scared me the most was that I knew that people who have this kind of material are dangerous people.
The Weisers wasted no time in calling the local authorities. One look at the material and they knew who had sent it: Larry Trapp. Trapp was a notorious racist and bigot, the Grand Dragon of Nebraska's Ku Klux Klan.
White power!
He supported a white supremacy movement that targeted blacks, Asians, and Jews. For years, he had terrorized the local population and was suspected of masterminding assassination plots, arson fires, and racially motivated violence. He had even once threatened to bomb the very synagogue where Michael Weiser now served as cantor. A diabetic since childhood, his disease eventually left him a double amputee. Working out of his wheelchair, his hate and venom was a danger to everyone in the community. With a stockpile of weapons and surrounded by Nazi regalia, his attention was now focused on the Weisers, and he was capable of anything. But Michael Weiser refused to be just another victim. He decided to call Larry personally, but only reached his answering machine and an 11-minute hate-filled message.
You people believe everything that's said against the white race by the media.
It seemed interminably long with this vicious anti-black, anti-Asian sort of rhetoric. And I listened to the whole thing, and I was really stunned that this was there.
After calling the number several more times, Michael finally left his own message.
I think the message was something like, "Larry, you're going to be sorry that you're doing all of these hateful things."
Because everybody has to answer to God at some time. Even you.
And that felt pretty good. And so I decided I would continue to do that. And I did continue to do that for almost 4 months, every week. Left Larry little love notes on his answering machine.
He really tried to say things to Larry that would shake him up a little bit and make him realize that there was another real person on the other end of the phone.
And then one day, Trapp answered the phone himself.
Instead of the answering machine, I got this hateful voice.
Hello, Larry.
Why do you keep calling here? Do you know this is harassment? I could have you arrested!
And I said, "I don't want to harass you, Larry. I just want to talk to you."
You want to talk to me about?
And so I said to Larry, "Well, I know you're a disabled person, Larry. I thought you might need a ride to the grocery."
Yeah, well, I already have that taken care of. But thanks anyway.
He was like a different person. He knew by that time who I was. He knew it was this Jewish guy. And he said, "Thanks anyway." It was an amazing thing.
Not long after, Cantor Weiser led his congregation in a prayer for Larry Trapp to end his hatred and bigotry.
There's a teaching that the highest thing a person can do is to make an enemy into a friend. And I think somehow in the back of my mind, I was trying to do that with Larry.
The next evening, the phone rang at the Weisers' home.
Hello?
Hello? Is the rabbi there?
Michael, it's Larry Trapp.
Hello?
Hello.
And he said with a very quiet, soft kind of voice, I want to get out, and I don't know how. And I said, Larry, do you want to talk about this tonight? And he said, yes. And I said, we'll be over. I'll see you in a little while.
At the last moment, Julie decided to bring Trapp a gift.
Wait just a minute. I want to get Larry.
I wanted to take him a gift because I decided that he was probably just as leery of us as we were of him.
Searching for something appropriate, she found a silver ring of intertwining strands she had bought for Michael 2 years earlier. Michael liked it, but seldom wore it.
I used to think of it as the brotherhood ring. It's ironic because of the strands of silver representing the different kinds of people.
That night, Julie and Michael left the safety of their own home to enter the private world of the man who hated them.
What happened next was a very intense few moments.
I reached out my hand and shook Larry's hand.
Hello, Larry.
I knew that something important was happening.
The moment their hands touched, Larry began trembling, like a strong electrical current was flowing through his body.
Larry was wearing 2 swastika rings, which he began pulling off.
I can't wear them anymore.
Larry told them that the night before he called, the rings started burning on his fingers.
What's going on here?
It was at exactly the same time that Cantor Weiser's congregation was praying for him.
And he said, would you take these away from me? They are nothing but trouble. Would you take them out of my life? And so I put them in my pocket.
Please take them.
Okay, Larry.
Julie suddenly realized the significance of the gift she had brought for him.
I had this ring in my pocket, and I told him that I would like him to have this ring, that we brought it to him as a gift.
Larry touched the friendship ring and broke down in tears.
We were all crying. Larry was crying. Michael and I began to cry. Larry said that he couldn't believe how he had treated us and that he was very sorry for what he had done. And he asked us if we would forgive him.
I think Larry's transformation was instantaneous. That it happened as we touched hands. That it was complete, it was total, and it was amazing.
Before Michael and Julie left that night, they took with them a carload of Ku Klux Klan propaganda and Trapp's pledge to renounce his past. Larry kept his promise, resigning from the KKK and even speaking out publicly on racism with his former enemy Michael Weiser by his side. Shortly after his public apology, Larry Trapp became terminally ill. Having alienated all the people he used to call friends, Larry had nowhere to turn. But the Weisers, who had opened their hearts to this unfortunate man, now opened their home. He would live with them until he died.
What it did for me, and what it did for Michael, and what it did for our children, and what it did for people who heard about this was really remarkable. And it makes me really glad it happened.
From a telephone call that caught him off guard,
I already have that taken care of. But thanks anyway.
to the power of a simple handshake, Larry Trapp's life was taking a miraculous journey. Before he died on September 6, 1992, the former neo-Nazi, the man who had terrorized an entire community, spreading hate and violence against Asians, blacks, and Jews, took one more step towards salvation. This godless man converted to Judaism.
I believe the power of love is immense, and love can even take a hateful person like Larry Trapp was and turn him into a really good guy. Miracles do happen, and I'm convinced that this was one of them. Grant perfect rest unto the soul of Larry Trapp.
Larry's memorial service was held in the very temple he had once threatened to bomb.
Almost everything that happened with Larry was miraculous. The idea that this Jewish family who he had threatened and who he hated, that he would end up living in our home and that he would end up dying in our home with Michael and I holding his hand and with him at his bedside when he took his last breath is pretty miraculous.
I've always thought it was a really interesting thing that his tombstone is directly across from another tombstone that reads friend. And that's what Larry turned out to be, a friend and a member of the family.